he find us when he comes?
Awake and ready.
And when he asks us to dedicate our lives ever more perfectly to him, how will he find us?
Awake and ready.
Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
Heavenly Father,
Heavenly Father,
friend, beloved God,
friend, beloved God,
great masters,
great masters,
Jesus Christ,
Jesus Christ,
Babaji Krishna,
Babaji Krishna,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
saints of all religions,
saints of all religions,
we humbly bow to you all.
we humbly bow to you all.
Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
fill our hearts with your love,
fill our hearts with your love,
our minds with your wisdom,
our minds with your wisdom,
our souls with your joy.
our souls with your joy.
Change not my circumstances, Mother.
Change not my circumstances, Mother.
Change me.
Change me.
We are yours.
We are yours.
Bring us home to thee.
Bring us home to thee.
Om.
Om.
Peace.
Peace.
Amen.
Amen.
Come here while I sing you of emerald hills, of valleys and meadows so fair, that all who have seen them have carried away memories in their hearts, friends, like the lilacs of May. Oh, my song is the story of the lilacs of May. My song is the story of deer on the hills, of larks that soar seeking the sun, of nightingales lifting the curtain of night, as with music they bring down heaven's blessings of light. Oh, my song is the story of God's blessing of light. Come join me in singing of that emerald isle, of flowers that like jewels besprinkled the Come near while I sing you of emerald hills, of valleys and meadows so fair, that all who have seen them have carried away memories in their hearts, friends, like the lilacs of May. Oh, my song is the story of the lilacs of May.
Continue to meditate as I share words this week from affirmations for self-healing on introspection. People commonly delude themselves with easy rationalizations. Maybe I wasn't as kind as I might have been, they'll say. But wouldn't you have been unkind too if he'd treated you that way? It wasn't my fault. The fault was his. Thus, the blame for every wrong is placed at one's neighbor's door. Introspection means to behold oneself from a center of inner calmness, without the slightest mental bias, open to what may be wrong in oneself, not excusing it, but not condemning either. Introspection means referring what one sees to the superconscious mind and detachedly accepting guidance when it comes. Let's affirm together. I am what I am.
I am what I am.
Wishing cannot change me.
Wishing cannot change me.
Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude.
Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude.
For only by facing them
For only by facing
can
them
I work on them and change them.
can I work on them and change them.
I am what I am.
I am what I am.
Wishing cannot change me.
Wishing cannot change me.
Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude.
Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude.
For only by facing them
For only by facing
can I
them
work on them and change them.
can I work on them and change them.
In a whisper, I am what I am. Wishing cannot change me. Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude. For only by facing them can I work on them and change them. Now let's do it silently. I am what I am. Wishing cannot change me. Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude. For only by facing them can I work on them and change them. One last time, lifting it to the point between the eyebrows, broadcasting this affirmation from the superconscious mind. I am what I am. Wishing cannot change me. Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude. For only by facing them can I work on them and change them. Pray silently with me. Let me not delude myself with desires, Lord. Teach me to see behind the play of my thoughts thy ever calm gaze of wisdom. Om. Peace. Good morning, friends. It's such a joy and a privilege to be with you all this morning to share. I think everyone knows, but not Narayan and Dharmadevi, welcome to our friends here, welcome to our friends online. Oh, and you know, here's the beautiful thing. I think some of us are aware of it, we're becoming more aware about Ananda, that it's a global divine family. And I wanted to introduce one of our dear friends and family members from Ananda, India, Devi Shah. So please welcome her. You'll get to connect with her after service. We're so happy to have you here. Just from Ananda, Mumbai. Our friends, some of you know Narayan and Shurjo, the center there. Yeah, come Ramji. Why do devotees fall? This is from Rays of the One Light. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. An endlessly fascinating question is, why did Judas fall after receiving the extraordinary blessing of being accepted into the inner circle of Jesus Christ's disciples? For Judas was one of the 12 apostles. Yet he betrayed Jesus and earned for himself the opprobrium of Christendom for all futurity for his sin. We find Judas reprimanding Jesus just days before that betrayal. Jesus, aware that his disciples would soon be facing with his death the supreme tragedy of their lives, allowed Mary to express her devotion by anointing his feet with costly ointment. This act of wanton waste, as Judas saw it, awakened indignation in that disciple. Why was not this ointment sold for 300 pence and given to the poor? This he said not that he cared for the poor, but because he was a thief, and kept the purse, and bare what was put therein. Then said Jesus, "Let her alone. Again, against the day of my burying hath she kept this. For the poor always ye have with you, but me ye have not always." Doubt not the power of delusion. Respect it. Indeed, fear it, though not in a sense of cowering before it. For as Yogananda said, one is not safe until he attains nirvikalpa samadhi, the state of final union with God. Judas, through attachment to money, opened his consciousness to subtle influences, which may be called satanic, that drew his thoughts toward other related attitudes. The importance of worldly power, for instance, and of worldly influence. The Bhagavad Gita gives a graphic explanation of how easily the mind can be drawn downward once it begins to feed on wrong attitudes. In the 2nd chapter, Sri Krishna states, "If one ponders on sense objects, there springs up attraction to them. From attraction grows desire. Desire, impatient for fulfillment, flames to anger. From anger, there arises infatuation, the delusion that one object alone is worth clinging to the exclusion of all others. From infatuation ensues forgetfulness of the higher self. From forgetfulness of the self follows degeneration of the discriminative faculty. And when discrimination is lost, there follows the annihilation of one's spiritual life." At the first thought of delusion, Paramahansa Yogananda said, that is the time to stop it. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to start by reading to you from Whispers from Eternity. Wake me, that I may know that the terrors of mundane delusion are only dreams. Wrapped in the blanket of hope, I slept long. I dreamed I was sitting on a throne, my face wreathed in smiles. My smiles withered, and the petals of my merriment dropped away one by one. Suddenly I beheld myself in rags, seated on the hard stones of poverty. I wept, and my teardrops fell on the unheeding, unrelenting stones of my present circumstances. The world passed me by in mocking silence. I cried out for thy help, and thou didst wake me at last through the force of my desperation. I laughed to find myself at last neither rich nor poor, but safe forever in thy arms. Oh, waken all anxious souls from their dreams of smiling opulence and crying poverty. O maker of dream worlds, deliver me forever from the nightmares of disease and death. Wake me to immortality. Wake me to unshaken calmness, that I may know the fierce terrors of mundane delusion to be only dreams. Yesterday, Narayan and I were walking, and he said, "Would you do me a favor? Would you take off your glasses when you give the talk?" I just started wearing glasses, like, I don't know, maybe it's been a month now. And I said, yeah, I think so, sure. And so as we're walking along, I took off my sunglasses, and I was like, whoa! Suddenly everything looked very different. So luckily I'm standing still. We don't have to walk around. But you know, Swami Kriyananda said too that the glasses can create a barrier because the eyes are the windows of the soul. So it's a good idea to take them off. And so I'll do my best to see you and not just see blurry, beautiful smiles. I was thinking of this topic, and it's such a heart-wrenching topic. Why do devotees fall? And of course we have the passage from the Gita that it just shows from the beginning of delusion all the way through to complete spiritual annihilation. It's like, it's terrifying in the sense that we see how Maya creeps in and just can pull us so far off. I was thinking of it, though, in an interesting way that came to me in how we talk about sensuality. Sensuality, don't worry, for those who were here a couple months ago when I talked about sexuality, and there were like some kind of shocked faces in the audience, but sensuality we talk about it's one of the yamas, non-sensuality. And we talk about it many times in the sense of not getting caught in our senses, not getting caught up in thinking that our happiness, that our joy comes from anything outside of ourselves. But what struck me as I was thinking of this topic is we don't necessarily think about how sensuality also, in its flip side, is about not being miserable by the things of our senses. Not getting caught in the thought that what anyone says or does to us is what takes away our happiness. Does that make sense? We think, oh, my happiness lies in something outside. We also think my misery lies in something outside of me. We think that others have the ability to make us either happy or sad. And we forget, because we're habituated to this thought of the senses, that we really have no control over what happens to us in our lives. We think that maybe we're beyond the point of thinking that beautiful car is gonna bring me happiness. We've seen enough ways that we get something that we've always wanted and suddenly we're just as miserable as we were before. So we've maybe kind of broken that hypnotism in a sense, but we still, there's this lingering thought or this lingering habituation to still, my misery is being brought on by outer circumstances, whether it's a person, whether it's a loved one, a spouse, a job, whatever it might be. We think that it's keeping us miserable. And we can have a moment of clarity and go, wait, if that was the case, then how come I felt joyful in my meditation, or I felt a moment of peace when I was with that very calm and uplifted person the other day? And so we're given these touches to, just like we're given the sorrow after a high of, wow, I got that thing I really wanted, and then it's the plummeting low. No, well, God, if that's not going to bring me happiness, then what is? So we get the lesson of our joy can only truly come from the divine, from our connection with that divine source. And then we have to learn that our misery is only coming from ourselves. It's only coming from our choice to be miserable. It's really incredible that it's true, but it really is true. And we can say to ourselves, well, that may be true in every other sense. I can say, oh, I understand my coworker's going through a hard time, and so let me feel compassion for that person, and now suddenly I feel a little better. But we always make it, but there's that one thing that has to be to blame for why I'm feeling terrible. That has to be to blame for why I'm unhappy in my life. And so we go on this way. But really, the only time that we ever make any spiritual progress is when we look inside and say, what is it within me that's causing this misery? What is it within me that's causing my unhappiness? That's causing me to want to put the blame on other people or other things? And when we do that, this is not a cliche. I mean, it sounds like maybe you hear it, there's bumper stickers probably all over the place about looking within. We have to do it, or we get nowhere. We get nowhere fast, and we go in circles until we finally learn the lesson and we go, oh, that one is me, but it's just that one, you see? And then we go, oh, if it was that one, maybe it's all the rest of them. Maybe all the rest of them are actually me. It's not to become self-absorbed. It actually gets us out of self-absorption. Because when we say, that person's making me miserable, this place is making me miserable, that thing, if that thing was just gone from my life, then I could be happy. It never gets us anywhere. As soon as we say, God, I have the power within me to be happy no matter what life circumstances. You may be familiar with Sister Gyanamata. who was Yoganandaji's foremost woman disciple. And she was so struck by, I believe it was Brother Lawrence. And Brother Lawrence, if you're familiar with the book, wrote about practicing the presence of God. And he had this game of minutes to try to feel God's presence in every moment of the day. And Brother Lawrence wrote about how it can seem self-deprecating the way that he said it, but it was to the effect of, I can't change myself. I can't change these terrible habits that I have. I'm inadequate to the task. I can't do it. But you can do it, Lord. That was the thing, was giving the power to God, that God can change us. And so in reading about Brother Lawrence, maybe she even spoke with him, I'm not sure, but Sister Gyanamata said this very powerful quote that maybe you know: change not my circumstances, change me. And this is to help us get out of that thought of people, places, things can have a downward pulling effect on us. This, I wanted to read from the reading, even though you've heard it. Doubt not the power of delusion. Respect it. Indeed, fear it, though not in a sense of cowering before it. A friend of ours said something very powerful to me the other day that really stuck with me, that about this fear of delusion. He said, I don't fear failure. I fear not doing my best. And I thought, wow, that's so powerful, because when it's really fearing delusion, if we don't have to fear not doing our best, we just have to try our best to do our best. But when we fear failure, it's setting up something that doesn't really exist. It's like pain. The Swami said, get to the heart of the pain, and that you realize there's actually nothing there. You go in, and oh, my shoulder hurts. When I go into the pain of my shoulder, I go. That's exactly where it is. And there's nothing. Bring in the light into that darkness. And then the pain, the suffering dissipates. But again, it's the choice. Our dear friend from Ananda, India, Naya Swami Jayaji, he was giving a class in India, and he was asked, so, do you have any powers? Because here he was saying, I've been doing this, for 45, 50 years, whatever it was, and I can tell you you should do this, and giving all the benefits of meditation and a life of inner communion as he's practiced. And the do you have any powers? And he said, no, I don't have any powers. And then he said, well, wait, I do have a power. I have the power to choose to be happy or not. And he said, I don't always use that power, but I know that it's there. We all have that power. We all have the power to choose to be happy, no matter what. Some of the happiest people on the planet are in the most unfortunate situations as we see them. We see extraordinary poverty. We see no home, no legs, no mental capacity, whatever the circumstance may be. Those people are there to show us that we can be happy no matter what. No matter what God gives us is for our own good. It's for our own learning of the lessons that we need to learn so that we can be perfected in God's light.